I will not tolerate such behaviour. If you want to go out now, but if you stand again, I'll lord you out. Make your mind up. Either shut up and get out.
Breaking developments this week. A new political storm is shaking both Washington and London. US President Donald Trump has delivered his most forceful warning yet to Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and the impact is already being felt across 2 continents. In televised remarks shared widely across American media, President Trump accused the British government of policing American free speech through its online safety laws, warning that such restrictions could come with serious economic consequences. But the controversy didn't stop there. The president's comments came just as government documents leaked in London, showing that Starmer's administration had allocated around £1.2 billion for new asylum accommodation projects. Figures verified by the National Audit Office. Separate reports put the cost of hotel rooms for asylum seekers at roughly £108 million per month in 2024 to 2025. The numbers struck a nerve. Critics say that while the government spends huge sums housing new arrivals, thousands of British veterans who once served in Iraq and Afghanistan are still sleeping rough. One image, circulated by veteran charities, showed a decorated Royal Marine reportedly living on the streets in central London, a stark contrast that has come to symbolise Britain's growing divide between policy and principle. Even within the Labour Party, MPs are uneasy. Several have quietly admitted that the optics are disastrous and that public patience is running thin. What began as a debate over online safety and migration has now erupted into a full-scale moral and diplomatic crisis, one that could reshape the balance between Washington and Westminster. The situation escalated fast. Days after the first reports, President Trump took the story global. In a televised address watched by tens of millions of Americans, he sharpened his criticism of Britain's government, linking free speech and moral responsibility in one explosive statement. The president warned that no nation should fund luxury for illegal migrants while war heroes sleep on the streets. Commentators across the US and UK described the line as one of the strongest rebukes ever delivered by a sitting American president to a British ally. It struck a chord and sent shockwaves through London. Within hours, major American technology companies reportedly held emergency meetings about their exposure to Britain's online safety regulations. Some began exploring relocation options to Ireland and continental Europe, a move aimed at avoiding future clashes over digital policy. In London's financial district, markets reacted instantly. Tech sector stocks plunged. Billions of pounds in value wiped away in just 48 hours. Analysts called it a transatlantic political rupture, proof that Washington's words carry real economic weight. Treasury officials privately voiced concern that the rift could slow Britain's fragile post-Brexit recovery, but Downing Street maintained its position, insisting the reforms are designed to protect citizens online, not to silence debate. Still, across both capitals, one reality was clear. The diplomatic temperature between Washington and London was rising fast, and neither side seemed ready to back down. Just when the government thought the story couldn't grow any larger, it did. At a veterans' charity gala in London, King Charles III took the stage. His speech, delivered to a room filled with former service members and dignitaries, focused on duty, sacrifice, and gratitude. Those who have served this nation with honor and courage deserve our care before all others, the king declared. The remark, though framed in royal formality, was immediately interpreted by commentators as a pointed reminder of the nation's priorities. Palace officials declined to comment further, but royal correspondents reported that the monarch has privately supported several veterans' charities using his own funds, an effort described as personal, not political. Still, symbolism in Britain matters, and this one landed hard. For Prime Minister Starmer, the optics were devastating. A monarch speaking publicly about honouring veterans while his own government faced mounting anger over migrant accommodation spending. Within hours, the internet ignited. The hashtag #VeteransFirst surged to the top of UK trending lists, with millions of posts comparing lavish hotel footage to images of homeless ex-soldiers sleeping rough. Commentators called it a moral earthquake, a moment that blurred the line between politics and conscience. By the next morning, the story had consumed every front page. What began as a dispute over policy had turned into a crisis of identity. Who Britain chooses to protect first? The reaction was immediate and fierce. Across Britain, anger moved from social media feeds to the streets. In London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool, thousands gathered outside government buildings carrying homemade banners that read, "Homes for heroes, not hotels for migrants." Among the crowds were British veterans, some in wheelchairs, some missing limbs from Afghanistan and Iraq, standing shoulder to shoulder with families and working-class citizens. Their message was simple: take care of those who served first. Police closed sections of Westminster Bridge as chants echoed across the Thames. Homes for heroes. Support our soldiers. It was no longer an online debate. It had become a movement. Inside Downing Street, the mood turned tense. Cabinet meetings, according to insiders, have devolved into shouting matches, with ministers openly questioning the Prime Minister's judgment. Several junior ministers have privately warned that his policies are becoming, in their words, politically radioactive. Senior Labour MPs circulated internal letters urging an urgent review of the migrant accommodation plan, desperate to distance themselves from public outrage. Over 40 backbenchers have already voiced support for reforming the policy before it tears the party apart. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage and his Reform UK movement have seized the moment. Their Veterans First campaign has surged in the polls, gaining traction with disillusioned Labour voters across Britain's industrial heartlands. Political analysts describe the shift as unprecedented, a wave of moral anger powerful enough to reshape the country's political map. And for Prime Minister Starmer, that wave is now crashing directly against number 10. What began as a domestic storm has now gone global. In Washington, sources close to the administration confirm that trade discussions between the US and UK have slowed sharply. Officials cited regulatory uncertainty and strained political optics as key obstacles to progress. Meanwhile, financial outlets report that several American technology firms are quietly reassessing their investments in Britain. Some have begun shifting parts of their workforce to Ireland and the Netherlands, hoping to avoid friction over the UK's online speech regulations. In London, the impact is already visible. Tech stocks continue to fluctuate, and analysts estimate that billions in market value have been wiped out within days. Economists warn that if the rift deepens, Britain could lose hundreds of billions in potential trade and foreign investment over the next decade. The diplomatic tension has drawn attention from allies worldwide. In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reaffirmed his country's commitment to constitutional stability, remarks interpreted by many as a quiet reminder of balance and restraint. In Australia, opposition figures described Britain's turmoil as deeply concerning. Within the European Union, officials privately worry that the UK risks isolating itself from key partners. International headlines capture the mood. Britain betrays its heroes. Free speech under siege in London. The Atlantic Alliance tested. For Downing Street, the crisis is no longer just political. It's reputational. Each headline chips away at Britain's global standing, leaving the Prime Minister increasingly isolated on the world stage. Inside Westminster, the pressure has reached a breaking point. Sources close to the government describe a mood of exhaustion and fear. What began as a public relations issue has become a full-blown crisis threatening the stability of Britain's ruling party. According to insiders, cabinet meetings have shifted from strategy to survival. Ministers once loyal to Prime Minister Keir Starmer are now privately questioning whether his leadership can endure. Some have begun discussing potential successors, while party officials quietly assess the political damage. The atmosphere inside number 10 is described as tense and fractured, aides leaving late at night, ministers avoiding cameras, and backbenchers whispering about resignations. One senior figure reportedly called it a government running on fumes. Outside Parliament, the protests continue to grow. Grassroots groups like Veterans Before Migrants have gained hundreds of thousands of followers online, raising funds for homeless veterans and planning new demonstrations. Their message, "Look after those who fought for Britain before anyone else," has become a rallying cry far beyond politics. Economists warn that the longer this confrontation drags on, the greater the risk to Britain's credibility and economic recovery.